Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show over on Twitter at Oddball Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Mighty Vin. Follow me over on Instagram at Vin Forte NYC. Follow the show over on Instagram, brand new Instagram account. Doing the pod since, mid 2021. Just recently got an Instagram account. Whatever. Go follow it. Oddball_pod. That's at Oddball_pod over on Instagram. If you've only been listening to the pod, go watch the video element over on YouTube. Started putting videos up a couple months ago. Now you can see the show in glorious 3 dimensions, in color, in real time. Not in real time, but maybe one day we'll do a live episode. But that day is not today. It's a pre-recorded day. Go follow youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast. A big show today. I'm just going to jump right into it. I have a fantastic guest. Miss Karleigh Webb from Gridiron Girls Podcast. So I bring her in here. Look at that Kirby the cat. What a treat and a half today.
Well, Kirby's got to be a part of it because Kirby's our prognosticator cat, and she's our prognosticator. She's picking games. As she says, I only pick the cat names, Karleigh. I only pick the cat teams. I pick the cat names. I said what I said.
It's as sound a strategy as can be in the world of sports betting and people saying, I got the inside track. Why not bet the cats?
Well, I'll tell you, Kirby had like a 700 winning percentage this season, so she did she did a lot right. But man, it's great to be here. It's great to be here. I've listened and watched your podcast, and
thank you.
It's always good to talk sports, and it's always good to talk. That's been the great thing about getting into the podcast thing. I'll admit it. I jumped into it a little bit later in life, and I jumped into a lot later in life, but I'm living proof that life can begin in your can restart in your mid 40s. So you get old dogs can learn new tricks, or in my case, cat ears, old cats can learn new tricks. So no, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to having some great discussion.
Yeah. And let's just jump right into it because over the holiday break, as I pull up the images here, we had some really interesting stuff going on at these bowl games. And the one that I think a lot of us really perked our antennas up over was the Pop Tarts Bowl, where, if nothing else, I knew I had to get to this first and foremost before we start anything about the bowl games proper, is they had a real human-formed, anthropomorphic, I don't know if that's the right word, a real deal Pop-Tart saying dreams really do come true, as it got lowered into a big toaster and came out all toasty and delicious. And at first everyone was like, what do we do with this? Is this the trophy? Like, what do we... And then they all just realized, oh, this is a real Pop-Tart. And they all just descended on it like it was a zombie movie.
Yeah, and Henry Johnson, the Kansas State quarterback, was the first just launching in on the Pop-Tart.
Yeah,
and
just launching in on it.
When I was in college at Northwestern, yeah, that's right, Northwestern Wildcat. Could use some more Northwestern merch, by the way. Pop-Tarts were required eating. They were quick. You could have a toaster in the room. You toasted it, and then you went to class. And it was a good football game, number one. It was an entertaining game between Kansas and North Dakota State. But that is an inventive idea, and I agree with one of my co-hosts, Shauna Atkinson, said that this is something that's going to spread. I mean, people are going to get more wild with it. And my other co-host, Chelsea Poe, agreed with the same thing. And the only thing is, though, I agree with Sean on this one. I would have liked to have seen an edible suit on someone, and the guys just tear into it. That would have been fun.
But you see this now at the bowl games, where 2 things are going on that caught my attention. One, they are getting really wacky. You've got the Duke's Mayo Bowl, where it's like they dump mayo on the winning. It's like, okay, let's cool it with the dumping stuff on people's heads.
The Mayo Bowl,
the mayo,
that was a little much.
Yeah, the Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's like, congratulations, you won. Here's mayo on your face. Like,
Although I wouldn't mind seeing a Nickelodeon slime bowl.
Oh my
I
God!
wouldn't mind
yes.
seeing like a you can't do that on television bowl. That would actually be fun. And by the way, memo to the NFL: next season, put one game on Nickelodeon. Put one game a week on there because I like.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
But that's where professional sports especially needs to go. You got to get young fans now. The average person who's watching any of the major pro sports is right now or is really in their 40s and 50s. That's not sustainable long term. You have to get young fans in the tent. And if that's the way to do it, that's the way to do it. And I think that's one big hole in the swing of a lot of sports is they're not getting the future. They figure if you make a video game, it's enough. No, it's got to be
Well, they're
more
not even
engagement
making
than
the
that.
video game because people
They're
are
not even making the
clamoring
games anymore.
for like the NCAA
That's
basketball games. No, but
No,
the
that's
basketball
coming.
game.
The football game's coming.
Football one is coming. But
See,
even
I
then,
don't know.
it's new EA. Like to me, there's a difference between EA right now and the 2K games, which aren't EA but still in the same sort of class, where you've got all the microtransactions and it's not necessarily a pick up and play experience. Where like those same companies were really cooking in the early to mid 2000s.
Well, to me, that's what's wrecking video games. This whole idea of you're already charging $75 for these games, and now you want me to shell out more. I'm selling out $75 for the game, and then you're telling me I got to shell out another $75 to actually make it fun.
Right. Like if you give me a complete experience, I don't mind paying $70 for a game.
Exactly.
You got to give me a complete experience.
I mean, for example, I was having this conversation last week with someone. To me, having owned a lot of the Madden series over the years, the best Madden was still the very first one. And it was made for an Apple IIe computer. By the way, just a little personal note. Christmas 40 years ago, I got an Apple IIe. And here's what's wild. The ding thing still works. It still works.
They build
40 years later, that Apple IIe, you turn them on, that little beep happens, and then the disk drives start going, and they start spooling up. And I still have my copy of John Madden Football, the original John Madden Football, which was an excellent, well done game. I mean, yeah, graphically it wasn't great shakes, but we aren't at the place of like Radeon graphics cards was a twinkle in some nerd's eye back in 1989, but the gameplay was there. I mean, Madden had a feature where you could literally drop your own plays and build your own playbook based on plays you drew up. Literally, you had the X's and the O's, and you'd literally draw the play up like you were on a chalkboard. That type of utility now really does not exist. It doesn't. I mean,
no, they took a lot of the customization out, and it's like that's half the fun is making your own team and having the ability to really get down and dirty.
Old school, old school team builder. I loved the EA College Football 2014 team builder because not only could you just build the team, you could build the looks of the players. I mean, you want to rebuild, say, Alvin Mack from the program, which I did. I rebuilt ESU. I rebuilt the ESU Timberwolves. Literally went back to the movie and built player for player, and they had the faces pretty close. It was kind of cool. I mean, that type of utility, and I think you have to bring that back. You have to make sure that utility is there if you're going to make people pay $80-$85 for a game and up to $600-$700 for a console. You're starting to get into computer territory.
Exactly, and that's why they go, you can get the deluxe edition that has like extra skins and plays. Like, I'm paying $30 extra just to get like a variant of Damian Lillard with a different jersey.
Yeah.
Like,
I see it like this. Here's something I want to tell Microsoft and Sony. Number one, it's bad enough that these things are going to cost $500-$600. And if you really trick them out, it's going to cost as much as a lower scale PC is.
Mm-hmm.
But at least put 2 controllers in the box. I think that's chintzy that they only give you one. No, put 2 controllers in the box. Don't make people buy 2 controllers because the chances are, I'll tell you what, if you buy 2 controllers, chances are if you put 2 in the box, I'm going to buy 2 more because I have more than 2. I have more than one friend. I mean, come on, don't get so. I mean, don't get so.
They're always going to be good. They're going to nickel and dime you.
Yeah, and but you see, that's what's hurting. That's going to hurt video gaming. Two things that are hurting video gaming: one, this constant nickel and diming over features that really should be base features in the game, and second, I mean, there's that, and secondly, I mean, over speculation dealt with under programming. This second thing that's happening is these games are coming out buggy. You know what?
Yeah.
Delay it 6 months if you gotta, but get rid of the bugs. Don't turn gamers into beta testers, because that's what's going to make people be like, how many
Well, that
potential
started
good
back
games
with
have been
like
hurt?
with these like green light programs. Like, oh, well, you can get the game now. It's not done, but you can play it. But then like the game comes out 6 months later in like its gold form, and it's still buggy.
And then you
Like,
pay
what are
more
we
money,
doing
and
here?
then they make you pay more money for it. It's like, no, put a put a complete game. I mean, go back to the formula back when I was younger, back in the 80s, where when you bought a game, you bought a complete. You knew that game was ready, and it had to stand on its merit, whether it was good or bad. And I'm a retro gamer, so I as in deep and rich and graphically beautiful as many of the experiences you're finding in video gaming are now.
Oh, so a lot of them do nothing
I'm
for me.
I have more fun. I have more fun going to my local barcade, and I have more fun
Mhm.
playing my Sega Genesis that still works. I mean, that's for my Sega and my Mattel and television. Yes, I have one from the early 80s, and the
Mhm.
dang thing still works. But those games, as simple as they were, I mean, you're averaging the Intellivision football game, which is actually really good, had about as much had much memory as a GIF has now. Think about
Yeah.
that. Think about that. Your GIFs on your cell phone has as much memory as a console game that came out 40 years ago. That's how
Because back
far.
then they had to get creative, so they had to make sure that the gameplay was fun before everything
Oh
else.
yeah,
'Cause it's like, look, we don't have the graphics, we don't have the horsepower, whatever. So we got to make sure that at the end of the day,
yeah.
you can have fun with this.
And that's one of the best articles I've done as a contributor to Outsports was interviewing members of the original Blue Sky Rangers, the programming group at
Oh,
Mattel Electronics that created.
the Activision.
Yeah, yeah, the original and television programmers who worked at Mattel Electronics in the late 70s, early 80s. I got to interview some of the surviving members and looked into the sports games they built, because for their time,
Mhm.
those things they took a quantum leap. If it wasn't for I truly believe this, and looking at the evolution of it, at the evolution games, you don't get without like the original in television basketball and hockey and football, you don't get Tecmo Bowl. You
No.
don't get, and also another great game, really unsung, that original Nintendo Entertainment System hockey,
Oh, it was
which was a
fantastic.
lot of fun. You don't get you don't get NHL 94 without that. You
No.
need that evolutionary link. And I think, and that's now a current video game I love is the 2K series. NBA 2K, and now now they've expanded with the
Mhm.
WNBA. I would love to see 2K work a college basketball game into that. I'd like to see them take that engine and make a college basketball game. I think it would sell.
See, my big problem with 2K games right now is that uh, a lot of times I just want to hoop. I don't want to have to like deal with record contracts and my sneakers and go around the 2K city. It's like this past game they're like, oh, we made the city twice as big. It's like, this is not Grand Theft Auto. Like, I don't need
Mm,
to be going around the city doing odd jobs. Like, I just want to hoop.
true. And that's the other part of it. I mean, they're trying to do, I mean, I understand that they want to do a lot with it, make these worlds so immersive, but at the end of the game, yeah, I'm like you. I'm like, I just want to get in. I just want to get in, take my team, roll the ball out and play ball. And I don't
Give me another NBA Street game. Give me NBA Street Volume 2, but again indifferent.
yes. And NFL Street while we're at it, because I did kind of like it.
Yes. Oh. What were we talking about? Bowl games.
Yeah, the bowl games, but to me, see, my own personal thought about bowl games is there's too many of them. And I know I'm old. I'm 52 years old. I'm curmudgeonly. I'll admit, I remember when there were 16. When a bowl
80?
Now there's like 41 and
41.
a potential 82 teams can get it.
That's what I'm thinking of.
And I'll admit, I'm also kind of curmudgeonly because this was another anniversary for me. It was 40 years ago. January 2nd was one of the great college football games ever played. Nebraska-Miami Orange Bowl, national championship on the line. Of course, I'm a Cornhuskers fan and lost on the 2-point conversion attempt that failed. Still, I will still believe to this day, 40 years later, Tom Osborne made the right choice in going for that because it's simple. You want to win. You play to win the game,
right?
But the thing is, bowls then they were truly a reward. Now I look at some of these teams that get in the bowls. There's no reason why a 5-7 team should get into a bowl. If you can't go and really, I don't like the idea of 6-60. I believe you got to have a winning record to be in a bowl game. I mean,
a bowl game means you have a certain level of excellence to your program that, okay, even if you can't get into the national championship, you're worthy enough to be given an opportunity to win something special.
Yes. At the very least, you win your conference championship. And you won your conference championship, you get to move forward. You had an 8, 9, 10 win season. And back then, there were 10 win teams that didn't get a bowl game. You had teams that will go 10-1 and be left on the side of the docks just because there's not enough seats. And of course, the major conferences, they're always going to get their cut. But now it's like everyone gets in. I look at some of these bowls now, and I don't begrudge the Power 5 teams making their own deals. Because the Power 5, I don't begrudge. Well, the Power 5 teams are going to do what they do. I'm talking about the group of 5 teams. I don't begrudge them making their own deals because the one thing that the college football playoff expansion should do is end that division entirely, which is one reason why I personally believe in a 6-team or better yet, my belief has always been 2014 bowl-based playoff where every FBS conference gets at least one bid. Every conference champion gets in. Even if the Sun Belt Conference gets that one bid for being the champion, they at least get in and get an opportunity. Because you're still going to have the same situation, even with the highest group of 5 gets an automatic berth in. You're still going to have the same. You're still going to have the same situation.
You've got to regulate it. You've got to manage it somehow and play into some kind of structure. Because right now, like even hardcore football fans are running around like, why is this team in a bowl game? Why are they in this bowl game? What's going on here?
To me, like I said, there's too many bowls. And don't get me wrong, I like the fact that my alma mater, Northwestern, got to the Las Vegas Bowl, won the Las Vegas Bowl in a well-played game. But still, do we really need a Birmingham Bowl or a Camellia Bowl? And another thing is, I understand this whole naming rights thing. Capitalism is what it is.
It's a little ridiculous. Once you get into like the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl,
Gronk owns a bowl.
Right. He changed the Gronk Bowl this year.
Roofofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. Serpro First Responder Bowl. Remember when there was the Poulon Weed Eater Independence Bowl and we all laughed at that?
Oh, you wish you had that now.
Now it's like, oh my God, Bad Boy Mowers. At one point there was the GoDaddy.com Bowl.
GoDaddy, all the pets.com, all these things that don't exist anymore.
It seems like and it's only going to get,
there's going to be an Ask Jeeves Bowl.
There's going to be, I think they're going to expand more bowl games because of the playoff expansion, which I'll admit I'm kind of mixed on the playoff expansion because I kind of like the suspense and the drama of just four teams get in. Mm-hmm. I feel that Florida State got a raw deal. I really believe Florida State got a raw deal on it and should have had. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. Florida State did get a raw deal, but I'm liking the playoff that we're having because we had two
Right.
excellent games in the college football playoff.
But they're expanding it just so much. Like I think they're, as long as they don't go farther than where they're going with it next year, I think
yes.
I'm fine with it.
Personally, I don't mind the 12. I don't mind the 12, but at the same time, I really like. I kind of got used to this forward thing. I kind of liked it. And I kind of gotten used to it and kind of enjoyed it. I think Monday night, though, we're going to have a great game. I think we're going to have an excellent football game between Michigan and Washington, but also at the same time, it shows how much college football has changed. College football has changed and will change. With next year, you're going to have an SEC Super Conference and a Big Ten Super Conference.
Well, speaking of college football changing and college sports changing in general, that leads directly in to money.
NIL, yep.
Money. The NIL so far.
Money. It's a hit. Don't give me that student athlete bull.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on with NIL right now. We can take it in any direction we want to go, but I think where I definitely want to start is, so far, I'm for what's been going on with NIL. I know there's some people out there who feel it should be curtailed a little bit. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Whenever people bring up, or that Billy Donovan this week made some news because he was talking about how athletes now in college, because of NIL, they could jump to different schools and they don't have to face the adversity of sticking with your team and all that. It's like, that's complete. That's bullshit.
I don't see coaches sticking with the adversity in their team. The minute they get a better deal, they're out.
Exactly. Exactly. And like, okay, so right, like you can cherry pick examples, sure, of, there's always going to be someone on the team that doesn't get along and doesn't play by the rules, and you're always going to find special little examples that you can pull out to make that point if the Billy Donovans of the world want to make that point. But by and large, these kids, it's not amateur anymore. Amateur hour is long gone, if it ever existed to begin with, once these games started being broadcast. So, like, once you've got this much money going, I mean, remember before NIL came into play, there were stories about college football teams where they could barely get stipends for lunch and dinner. It's like, are you kidding me? So, like, yeah, open up the floodgates. Like, this is not amateur hour anymore. Now, do I think that, I think there could be a case made that, should there be certain classes or seminars that students that have NIL deals have to take to learn to manage their money? I think that's true. I think that's a bigger conversation. I think that's true for any student. I wish I had those kinds of classes, in high school.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the actual just nuts and bolts of NIL, and is it good or bad? I think the good far outweighs the bad.
I agree. And like it or not, this is where it's going. And there's always the possibility of abuse. I'll admit, I'm cautiously optimistic about the NIL. I don't begrudge the student athletes anything, because for far too long, student athletes have had to deal with, they see their jersey in the bookstore at $60 a pop. They're getting none of that. And now they're getting a piece of it. I think NIL can potentially be great as far as an equalizer between sports. It can be an equalizer, because now you have a situation where, say, a top flight swimmer, a top flight gymnast, a top flight track and field athlete can get out there, get some shine, and also get a little cash flow on their end and getting eyeballs on their sport.
Well, that's the thing.
That's one thing the NCAA has got to reckon with right now, is what's going to change, because the football schools, the Power 5 schools, are building a football cartel. Let's just be real about this. And you don't think the kids know it? The kids know that the cartel is being built. They understand it and they know it. They understand that these schools are starting to come together and say, we want to make sure that we can get as much money as we can. And a lot of student athletes are realizing that nobody's talking, especially if you're a female student athlete on a campus, you need to be asking one critical question. Who's talked about Title IX in any of this in regards to conference expansion, teams moving conference to conference, football playoff expansion? I had an idea that if there was a formal college football playoff, I was beating this drum years ago. That if you go to a college football playoff, immediately earmark 20% of those proceeds towards Title IX enforcement. Immediately throw that money directly into compliance and enforcement of Title IX. That's where a fifth of that money should be going. But here's the thing, nobody's talking about Title IX in any of this expansion. If you're, say, a volleyball player at USC and you know you're going to have that road trip to Rutgers, what's that going to do to your budget? Or if you're a swimmer at UCLA, what's that
right?
going
They
to do
don't
to
have
your
any.
budget? I mean,
no formal union where it's like you can protest.
But here's the thing, the Olympic sports lose in this. And that's the thing. The Olympic sports lose in all of this in many ways. NIL could be an equalizer there. So that's why I'm at least cautiously optimistic. But on the other side, you got NIL, the transfer portal. Now, on the other side of the transfer portal, I'm really mixed to leaning slightly against this because I'm seeing this too. I understand the right of movement. I have no problem with, but it just seems like a lot of movements happening.
There needs to be a little more regulation. I'm for the portal,
there needs to be regulation. But also, I'm just looking at the kids. It's like all of a sudden, you're a 5-star recruit, but you got to but you may be on the bench for a year, and all of a sudden you're just jumping, or all of a sudden you're just jumping. You're jumping ship to go to the next opportunity. And on the other side, you have a player who's a starting quarterback, say at an FBS school, at an FCS school, and you maybe made the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're getting called up to all of a sudden it's like getting called, like that becomes the minors and you're getting called up to the big leagues. What does that say to the team that you're on? That's right. I mean, like it or not, the portal has changed a lot of ways things are being done, that a way business is getting done. And that's going to, and the thing that worries me is that I mean, you've always had high recruiting in high school. That's just a fact of life. People don't want to talk about, but now it's going to get more naked. It's going to get more blatant. And in many ways, you're going to be at a point where you're going to have more Bishop Sycamores being built if you're not careful.
Ooh, that's a whole other topic.
I mean, yeah,
it's one of my favorite fascinating topics, but
it's a topic to think about. But you have to think about that now because this whole landscape has changed. And another thing that changed it inadvertently, but it's important, is COVID. The COVID pandemic radically altered the landscape because now players got 1 to 2 to even 3 extra years. So you have a lot of players that normally would be off to their life's work, or maybe off to the NFL or the CFL, for example. If we take football,
now just like I'm going to ride out this NIL.
Still playing college football. And then on the other side, you have things like starting quarterback of a playoff caliber team is now got a better deal from Syracuse, and McCord's running there. I mean, it's interesting to see what's going to happen. You have to deal with tampering because right now it's the Wild West. Tampering's going on.
Right. Well, there's this. Well, now what is it? The NCAA is trying to institute rules where the schools can now get involved in NIL, and basically, if they wanted to provide, housing for the star quarterback on campus, that may be on the table. Things like that. And at that point, it's like, you're really putting a line in the sand and making a divide of like the haves and the have-nots and who you value and who the school values.
But there's always been that divide. There's always been there. But
this
at least
is going to make it deeper.
But at least now it's open, it's above board, it's honest, and we know where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
I know, for example, that my alma mater, Northwestern, can't offer what a Michigan or Ohio State does. They can't. Not in a football sense, not in terms of facilities, not in terms of NIL opportunities. Yes, there's the studies, there's the opportunity getting a Northwestern degree. And as a Northwestern grad, I can tell you that purple and white opens a lot of doors. It pries open a lot of doors you think are welded shut. But when you're looking at the parlance of one school can offer you a better food service card, but the other school can offer you a house and a car, or a lot more deals and a lot more money, who you going to take? But on the other side of that, you balance that with, it's a great equalizer. Look at who some of the top earners in the NIL are. One of them had a 40-point game a couple nights ago. Certain young lady named Caitlin Clark.
Right.
You ought to see her deals. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Her deals may eclipse her first contract in the WNBA.
Well, that's exactly
she's
what
already
I was
lining
watching,
that up. Yeah.
Well, that's like I was watching PTI the other night, and Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon were talking about just that. How, she may want to stick around and get her graduate, because the money she's making now may not be as much as, or maybe more than she would be making if she went right to the WNBA.
Well, Vin, yes or no? And we got to get on this, because I'm glad you asked, because Lindsay D'Angelo talked about this a lot, banged on this a lot on her Twitter, and she's right about this. Here's the thing. Do you really think that brands like Gatorade and Nike are going to drop Caitlin Clark just because she becomes a New York Liberty instead of an Iowa Hawkeye, or an Indiana Fever instead of a Hawkeye? No, they're going to go with her. Right. Those deals are going to go with her. They're going to go with her. But and really, that's the hobgoblin. Don't get me wrong. Love Michael Wilbon, fellow Wildcat. Love Tony Kornheiser. Got to know them both in my time at ESPN. I mean, I'm an ESPNer. Was for 18 years. That's where I kind of cut my teeth. In many ways, cut my teeth in this business. But they're looking at women's sports through a male sports lens, and in the realm of male sports, the contract is the biggest thing. I mean, even though we have the textbook example of how contract isn't that big a deal, Michael Jordan's contract was a pittance.
Nothing.
But what Michael said was, I play basketball for the Chicago Bulls. I work for Nike. And that's the difference. I mean, the Bulls paid him $1-2 million a year. But the thing is, though, it didn't matter, because he was making 30, 40, 50 million a year hawking those Air Jordans. And that's the same thing with Caitlin. Those deals are not going to go away just because Caitlin matriculates to the WNBA. The deals are going to stay. In fact, the deals are going to be enhanced, and it's going to be a rising tide. You're seeing a generation in women's basketball that's going to be a rising tide that's going to lift a lot of boats over these next 4 years. Because you look at people like Michaela Fawiley over at South Carolina, freshman who's killing it. Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame, another freshman. Oh my God.
Big names that are freshmen aren't going away.
And here's the thing. You get to enjoy them for the next 3 to 4 years. You're going to enjoy them for 4 years. You're going to get to know them. You're going to see what you saw in men's college basketball generation or two ago, where you literally saw a person mature before your eyes in the space of 3 to 4 years. And by the time they got to the NBA, you were already on the bandwagon. You didn't have to try and manufacture the star. The star is already there. And you're seeing that in the women's game.
Right. People followed Chris Webber and Jalen Rose from college directly into the NBA without any hiccup whatsoever.
Exactly. And that's what you're going to see. But like I said, for them, the contract is the thing. How big's the contract? How big's the signing bonus? And frankly, women's sports is going to run a bit different. But women's sports is getting there. Alexis Ohanian is crazy like a fox when he's telling people, look at what some high profile male athletes are doing. They're buying in because they see the growth potential. Yeah. I mean, Tom Brady buying into the Las Vegas Aces. Patrick Mahomes basically buying part ownership in an NWSL team in Kansas City. They understand this. It's fertile ground. Women's sports is fertile ground. And I just tell people, you know what? People watch women's. I mean, contrary to the belief of some people on some of the social media sites and the various strips of male chauvinist bacon out there, people are watching. Ratings are up across the board. Women's college basketball ratings already up. They're already up. Women, the Final Four had big ratings.
Yeah, just anecdotally, like, look, in the past, let's even say 10 years ago, let's even say 5 years ago, I would be in conversation with other, male friends, and you bring up the WNBA, and it's like, are you watching the WNBA? That has completely changed. Like, you talk to real, like, hoop heads now, and they're like, yeah, those aces, man, those aces are badass. Don't fuck with, Kelsey Plum.
Well, yeah, because game respects game. See,
right.
The people who bash women's sports
don't actually watch it.
They don't watch it. And, there's a little thing coming in 2024. It's called the Summer Olympics. Big thing in Paris. Who are you? Think about it. Who do you want to watch? Line up 20 sports fans, say, okay, Olympics are coming up. Who you want to watch? I'm going to say two names that most of those people are going to say. And if they say they're not going to say it, they're lying to you. Sha'Carri Richardson and Katie Ledecky. Just so you know, watch swimming at the Olympics. Yeah. Kyle Sockwell, boys at Swim Slam. That's for you, because it's going to be the U.S. Olympic trials is going to be the most lit swim meet in the world outside the Olympics this year, because the talent is on. You want to see a preview of the U.S. Olympic trials? Watch the NCAAs this year, because the times are already red hot in the pool. They're already red hot. I'm looking at some of these dual meets, and you got people in training runs running who are having these Olympic level swims already. It's only going to get better. And the other person, Sha'Carri Richardson. We're watching her. Sha'Carri Richardson is set to become America's sweetheart at these games.
Yeah.
She's going to become that woman's going to become America's sweetheart. You what? I'm going to call it. The 2024 Paris Olympics will be her Sugar Ray Leonard moment. I'm calling it right now.
I don't think it's a bold prediction. I think it's going to happen.
No, but you see, that's the thing at the Olympics. You never know. You never know.
Oh, someone will come out of nowhere at the Olympics that we're not even thinking of.
Well, I mean, there's a couple people but I'm looking at American athletes who are poised to just really break into the consciousness. Sha'Carri's on the cusp of it, but after 2024, this is what's going to happen. Sha'Carri's going to sweep that 100-meter title, and I'll even go as far as say she'll threaten FloJo's world record, because I think FloJo's world record, as fast as it is ripe for the picking. The two world records ripe for the picking. One is the 100 meters for the women. The other is the 400 meters. Which was a steroid power record to begin with. I'd love to see Sydney McLaughlin take it. I'd love to see her take that down, because I think she has the talent to do it. But Sha'Carri's going to have this big Olympics, and then a month later, she'll be hosting SNL. I'm calling it right now.
Need to see that.
But that's what's happened. But the bigger point is, women's sports is booming right now. Now's the time to get in. Now's the time to don't listen to the Breitbarts and the Outkicks. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to the male. Don't listen to it's time that sports fans start making bacon out of the male chauvinist pigs and realize, hey, women's sports is booming. It is where the action is.
Listen, you can't deny history. It keeps moving. It's an evolution.
Yes, it does.
Like, people who poo-poo this today are going to look like idiots, 5 years from now. Not even, when everyone's on board. But they're always going to have their little audience.
But people have been there before. I mean, in the 1960s, when people were saying this NFL merger big deal will never eclipse baseball, then 10 years later, right. you realize that you turned around 10 years later, looked at the television ring, and said, oh my God, the most watched show on television is a Super Bowl, not a World Series.
I've always said the worst sentiment that people can have towards the thing they love is too much reverence. Something like that is what's killing the MLB, or was killing the MLB for a good long while, because they didn't want to see personalities. Oh, bat flipping. Oh my God, like you're ruining the sport by doing a bat flip.
But you see, that's the thing. The MLB in the 1970s had personalities. Ken Schultz and I over at Outsports,
Mhm.
And if you ever want to have someone who can talk about this issue up and down, back and forth, get Kenny Schultz, because he loves baseball. But he and I talked about this a lot. That baseball always talks about how we don't want to. It's about the game. It's about the game. But ultimately, even when you talk about history in baseball, it's personalities. I mean, people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were great teams, but when you talk about like the Yankees of the 20s, the first word out your mouth is Babe Ruth. When you talk about the Yankees in the 30s, your first words out your mouth is Lou
It's
Gehrig.
name recognition. You
Yes,
talk about
in the
the Mets. That Mets team that won in '86. I mean, let's
oh
face it.
God,
They were a fucking mess, but they're
but they were
lovable.
fun.
They were
But they were
fun.
fun.
They were big personalities that you could
Chocolate
wrap your arms
strawberry,
around.
Dwight Gooden, Keith Hernandez. When I was a little kid, let me put it this way: there was one commercial I remember as a little kid that had sports stars in it, and it was Aqua Velva. There's
Ooh.
something about an Aqua Velva, man.
Well, man.
Aqua Velva got so many baseball stars. If Aqua Velva could field their own team, they'd win a pennant. And people knew who the stars were. Like I have this thing called the Tony Webb test.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Webb is my mother. If Tony Webb knows who you are, then you're famous. And let me tell you, she doesn't really follow sports. But for example, when I was a little kid, she knew who Reggie Jackson was. Well,
Right.
she knew who the big star was. I mean, this is how far the rabbit hole went. My mom detests NASCAR, but she knows who Jeff Gordon is. That's what, and that's the thing. Baseball, the measure of a sport, the measure of how people are loving a sport is, do these people translate for the people that don't even watch sports? Do they get into the mass popular culture? And right now, who's in the mass popular culture, right? And when I was a little kid, baseball was the mass popular culture. You saw these guys in commercials. You saw these guys doing cameos on TV shows. You saw these guys hitting Saturday Night Live. And then all of a sudden it switched. When I was in junior high and high school, all of a sudden it switched. Football started taking all that space. And then in the 1990s, all of a sudden the NBA started taking that space. It started getting in that space. And then when that
MLB better watch out.
When that Jeff Gordon guy came around, he got into NASCAR. Made it when Jeff Gordon hosted an SNL. That's when you knew these hillbillies and hicks make.
Oh, it's a bellwether. It's like I always talk about the MLB. Like Yankees fans can hoot and holler all they want about Aaron Judge. There's a lot of people in this country that wouldn't be able to pick Aaron Judge out of a lineup.
And that's sad because he's a heck of a ball player. I mean, right now we have we have 3 players in baseball who, if they came out in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you'd be seeing them all over the place. Judge is one, Mookie Betts is another, and Shohei Ohtani is a modern tall tale. He's a funky row. He should be all over everything. He should be in your snap, crackle, and pop. You open him up and shot, and Ohtani comes out. He should be everywhere.
Yeah,
and
he's
not. And don't tell me about, there's a language barrier. So what? Yao Ming has a language barrier, and you saw him pitch and everything. Who else? Vlade Divac. When Vlade, come on, we still remember Vlade Divac doing those razor commercials. I am no longer irritating. I mean, the MLB is sleeping on the moment, and if they're not careful, they're going to be more insignificant because other sports are filling that. Other sports are filling that vacuum, and now guess who else is filling that vacuum? Now we are at a point where women's sports are really filling that vacuum en masse, and advertisers are realizing is people will wrap their arms around these women and they will sell product. And one thing that women's sports is doing better than men's sports right now, they're hitting that young market. They're hitting that.
It's an investment. Some people feel like, we shouldn't be investing. No, you gotta put the effort in.
Give the NFL credit. when they saw that Taylor Swift is going to be in a lot more of their broadcasts, they
Jumped on
leaned on in. It's like, we're
Jumped.
leaning on in. Hey, if Swifties are watching the game, fine. If a bunch of tween and teen girls are all of a sudden wearing shirts with the NFL shield with Taylor's version on it, fine. The point is, they're watching us. They're watching us. Hey, I give the NFL credit because the no fun league normally eschews this, and instead they're throwing it on the Twitter. They're leaning into it, and that's a smart move. And especially the emerging leagues like the NWSL, they're leaning into that. The WNBA is starting to get smart and lean back into that, and I think that's what that is. That's where the future is. The future is making sure, and in a lot of ways, leagues need to start realizing that that these young people, many of whom play your game, they're the young people that are going to also support your game. You got to cultivate fans, and there was a time when they did that. There was a time when these leagues did that. I became a fan of pro football because when I was a little kid, the NFL had a thing called the NFL Fun Club. They had a thing.
Yeah. NBA inside stuff like that.
Inside they had a thing, but also electric football didn't hurt.
Right, the video games, like the amount of people who got into certain sports, even in the late 90s, like the people who got into like skateboarding because of the Tony Hawk games. Like those things matter.
Hockey fans got built by the early NHL games.
Yes.
There
was so many great NHL games.
And if there's ever an example of how a bad commissioner can mess up a good thing, it's Gary Bettman. Who, by the way, won our Asshole of the Year award at Outsports this year with good reason. The Pride tape ban was stupid.
It was dumb.
But here's the thing: Gary Bettman should have been thrown out in his ear long ago because he ruined a good thing. Hockey has had the opportunity to grow. Had a solid television contract with ESPN, not once but twice. Now you get a third bite of the apple. Don't screw it up. Please, Mr. Bettman, don't screw it up. Don't mess that up because you have stars that you can sell, but Bettman's going to find a way to shoot this thing, and he always does. I mean, if the powers that be in professional hockey are smart, get a commissioner that cares about growing a game because he doesn't. And it's sad because I love me some hockey, and that's another sport that's really look at minor league hockey. Look at how the minor leagues have blown up. Look at how college hockey has become a good solid niche television viewing. It's become, I mean, I'll put it this way. Every time I go to I live in college hockey hotbed, and people say no one watches college hockey. You go to BU, go to BC,
go to the right place.
Go to Quinnipiac, go to Yale, go to UConn. Those stands are filling up, and go to places far away. I've seen games at University of Denver, and literally you got to scalp to get a ticket, or a place like University of Nebraska Omaha. And I saw that program. I worked in Omaha when that program was rebuilt as a Division I program, and people have been it's been perennial top 5 in attendance every year since the program was refired in 1996. And people are going, I mean, college hockey is starting to boom. Why do you think so many of these schools in the Sun Belt, like Arizona State, build a hockey program, Stanford build a hockey program? Why? Because they're realizing people want to go see this attraction. So, I mean, there's a lot of sports are getting it that if you want to grow, there's a road to growth. And the NHL's got to realize that sooner or later you need a commissioner that's growth minded in getting people to watch this game, because the fact is sports is like any other piece of the entertainment industry.
But
I think it's like any other piece. You have to quit the one thing that sports has struggled with, all sports have struggled with, is realizing that you're not just competing your sport against other sports. You're competing against Taylor Swift. You're competing against the PlayStation. You're competing against the 24-plex down the street, because people only have so many entertainment dollars. And the fact of the matter is the prices have gone up on anything, especially when it looks like we're headed for a recession. People are going to decide, I can either go see I can either go see this hot A24 movie and pay $14-15 a ticket, or I can go see your ball club. I can't do both. I can go see Taylor's I can go see the Eras tour, or I can go see our NFL team. I can't do both. So people are making decisions. People are voting. They're going to vote with their car keys and vote with their wallets. You have to think in that mindset. And that's what it comes down to for all sports, because you're a part of the entertainment industry now. You're a part of the glitter machine, and you have to fight within the glitter machine.
Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good place to end on. And I think, talk about people using their entertainment dollars wisely. Go listen to Gridiron Girls, because that costs nothing. It doesn't cost any of your entertainment dollars.
Although, if you do want to give us a little financial support, hey, you can go to my Substack, throw me some dollars. The Karleigh website, which is my Substack for some of my writing, but also it is the Substack home for the Gridiron Girls. And by the way, we're rebranding ourselves. We're calling ourselves Gridiron Girls Transition Defense, because we're three transgender women who just like to talk about some sports and talk about a lot of other stuff. So yeah, we're kind of rebranding a little bit. Also, because we found out there were 6 other podcasts that had Gridiron Girls name. So
yeah, that's why I was talking to you the other night. Like, I was like, yeah, I didn't, because when I looked for you for you all on Spotify, I was like, it's like 5 other podcasts called Gridiron Girls.
But as far as just, I've enjoyed working with my 2 co-hosts, Chelsea Poe, who's like an award-winning erotic filmmaker. I got to interview last year on my previous podcast, The Transporter Room. Shauna Atkinson, who's awesome dodgeball player, just high priestess nerd of the great state of Ohio. And we just decided, hey, let's just talk about sports and let's just talk about ourselves. And also, 2 of us are avid athletes. I mean, 2 of us are also competitive athletes. Shauna is right now was a part of the USA Team USA Dodgeball tour last year. And I have a feeling that before too long, you're going to see her in stars and stripes at a World Dodgeball Championship. I see it coming for myself. I got to shout out my girls real quick. Reapers Women's Football. It's based up here in Connecticut and Hudson Valley, New York. We're getting ready for our upcoming season in a brand new league. We joined the East Coast Football Association, their new women's division this year in March. We start playing games, and I can't say enough about the opportunity to play a team sport at a higher level, to be padded up again for the first time since high school. That's like in the late 80s for me. That's how far back it goes. And to have this opportunity to play and to get out there and do it and be a part of a sisterhood and this band of sisters who've come together to play some great football. My cup runneth over. That's how great this has been.
Well, Karleigh, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I love the Gridiron Girls podcast. I love your work with Outsports. Well, I love the production of Gridiron Girls. Don't go to Spotify to leave a nice 5-star review for them, but watch on YouTube.
Yes,
because the very old school local sports style production, owing to your 25 years of experience.
As an anchor reporter in Omaha for 4 years, I was an associate producer, field producer at ESPN for 18. And I revere sports television. When I revere good sports television, I'm a child of Roone Arledge. I grew up watching what he built. And when I went into the business, my ambition was, there were 3 people in television who I looked up to and saw as a model and studied. One was Norman Lear for his storytelling. The second was Bryant Gumbel, because Bryant Gumbel was a fearsome newsman, fierce in sports. I mean, this is how bad Bryant Gumbel is. The thing that fired me up about Bryant Gumbel was when I was in college, and Bryant Gumbel, I was in like a junior in high school, and Bryant Gumbel is interviewing Mikhail Gorbachev in Russian. A black American television news anchor interviewing the first secretary of the Soviet Union and doing it entirely in Russian. I looked at that and said, that's who I emulate. That's the level. And then the third was Rune Arledge, because of what Rune Arledge did. Much of what you see in sports today, in sports television now, began with Rune. Monday Night Football, Rune. The way you view the Olympics and how he got you to care about people you didn't know about. See, that's what gets me about people say, "Well, why should I care about the Rune Arledge?" This is how bad Rune Arledge was. Rune Arledge got Americans to fall in love with Olga Korbut. Now, Olga Korbut came from a country that Americans are programmed to hate. Yeah, every American in 1972 was like, "Oh, look at that cute Soviet girl on the balance beam." Rune Arledge got you to care about her.
It's just about like the storytellers. It's about telling the stories.
Rune got you to care about. Rune got you to care about Sugar Ray Leonard. Rune got you to care. Rune got you to care about Caitlyn Jenner. Of course, she wasn't Caitlyn yet, but Rune got you to care about Caitlyn Jenner. And then when Rune did all that, you said, you know what? Rune started something that many. Rune was the father of this statement. More people get their news from ABC News than any other source. Rune gave you world news tonight. So Rune changed a lot of what you watch on TV. You scratch the DNA, you find Rune Arledge, and that's the person who I wanted to emulate in my own television career. And you see some of those elements when we do at the Gridiron. You see the Gridiron Girls is part Monday Night Football, and it's part the old NFL Today. And that's one more thing. NFL pregame shows are too long. They're too long. I think that every producer of an NFL pregame show, I want you to go find an old tape of the NFL Today. And I mean the NFL Today when it had Brent, Irv, Greek, Phyllis, or Jane, and watch it. They gave you more information, and we're ready in 30 minutes than you're getting in 2 hours from some of these overblown pregame shows. Cut that, man. Just go back to the basics. Just go back to the basics.
Go back to the basics. And on that note, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want my computer's about to die, so I don't want to. But again, I want to thank you.
I do. I want to end it with hey, we got a seat for you on Gridiron Girls Transition Defense. Come on.
I would love to be on. Yes, we will talk. We will talk after this.
Oh, definitely.
But like I said, I'm gonna keep the outro short today. You know where to find the pod. You know where to get your podcast from. You're listening or watching one right now. YouTube.com/Oddball Podcast. Vin Forte, you've been listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. See you same time, same place next week. There's Karleigh. Go follow her.